Eleni, hi, how great to see you.
Nice seeing you too, Ruth.
Oh, yeah, we got so much great feedback on our last conversation. I'm really happy to talk to you again.
Yeah, same. I really love that.
Oh, I think we're reviving the lost art of conversation too, because you just don't see people like communicating like this back and forth and having a discussion. It's like we talk through emojis or the number of characters that you can fit. Uh,
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's only like you can only get so much nuance in like a short TikTok video or short video versus like a long form like conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah, no kidding. So I'm really happy for this. I was going to ask you a few things, but and I want to make sure that you ask me, I'll ask you, and we can go back and forth. But I was kind of curious about what pulled you into the relationship, and please feel free to say I don't want to talk about that, or let's talk about
Yeah.
something else. But uh, with so many of my ladies, we talked about charm, I think, last time, but there's some certain quality about this
Yeah.
type of personality, and you can be charming and for real, and then charming
Mhm.
and not for real. But there was something that, got your motor going and made you feel like this could be somebody special. Do you have any thoughts about what it is about that type of person in the beginning?
Yeah. Um, I think I think unfortunately for me, what happened was what I believe is that he was mirroring me. So he comes in being like, I'm a feminist, I love women, I'm very like I similar political ideologies, similar life values. It was like, okay, so I was trying to check boxes and be like, oh, this person has this, and this for a life partner, right? Um, and oh, he was in therapy. So here's I know it's kind of scary when you think that these type of people could also go to therapy, right? And then maybe use that as to make themselves appear more safe. And I think a lot of these type of men insert themselves in women's spaces and use those similar talking points than we do to make themselves appear safe.
Yeah, and how
Yeah.
but how scary it is when they start to use that psychological double think on
Yeah.
you and get inside your head and start to
Yes.
make you think, oh, am I really acting out of my childhood wounds
Hmm.
or like it's interesting how they can weaponize something that's supposed to be healing, like
Hmm.
therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it really was I was looking for a safe person, and he didn't come off as an aggressive person. A lot of these covert abusers don't come off aggressive. They come off kind of gentle and safe. And so that's why I'm like, they are truly the wolf in sheep's clothing because they're not what you would typically see at a bar of like an angry, aggressive guy, and okay, I'm going to stay away from that one. But when they come in and they're like, I love women, and you're a woman in a female in a male dominated work environment that's so inspiring, and all these things, and you're like, oh, wow. Yes, absolutely. Same values. This person might be safe.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well, and how scary it is over time to start to begin to doubt uh, your own perception of who
Mhm.
this guy truly is. That I think I've seen a lot of women go through these different types of relationships where they start off with one that there is physical violence, and it is really scary, and they're fleeing for their lives, and then they get into a relationship with somebody that there's no physical violence. At least it's not fist to the face. It could be, a punch to the wall, or smashing something that belongs to her, or keeping her up all night. And many women don't realize that's part of domestic violence too, or keeping her from leaving a room. But they're
Yeah.
also yelling in her face, and there's spit flying, and there's
Yeah.
swearing, and it takes a while for to sort of recognize that I'm not being physically abused, but this doesn't feel good. This feels unsafe. I've got to leave this one. And then they meet somebody like who you're talking about here, that is soft spoken, has maybe a nice sense of humor, has that sort of
Mhm.
quiet, subtle charm, and seems to be very interested in your everything that makes you tick, and sharing your values. And then over time, you start to see that even that is being twisted and used to manipulate you and exploit you. So there's like it's out of the fire into the frying pan sometimes with
Mhm.
these relationships. And then how do you start to identify who's really worthy of your affection and love, who is somebody that is what you see is what you get.
Oh my God, yeah. And I think that's another thing that survivors we have to grapple with after is the betrayal and then not being able to trust ourselves after.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
You know, we're like, oh my God, I was fooled by this person, so I don't trust my own judgment anymore, you know?
Yeah, yes, and how lonely that can end up being. And I think there's if we think about what happens after you've been in a relationship like this, if it's physical abuse, those wounds will heal. But when it's the kind of abuse that gets inside your head, like you're talking
Hmm.
about, you start to question your own ability to pick a mate, or what do they say? Their picker is broken, So
Yeah.
and then to sort of doubt yourself. But there's so many other, I think, side effects of being in this type of relationship. Did you ever feel like your self-confidence or your memory or your abilities were being
Yes.
called into question? Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've been in a coercively controlling or covertly abusive relationship, that's the first thing that starts happening is the chipping away at your self-esteem. It's due to the constant criticism. And so if you're a self-reflective person, you start thinking, okay, what can I fix in myself so that they stop criticizing me? Maybe they are right. Maybe I can do this better. Maybe I did fold the towels not properly, and that's why he was so upset with me, and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, and you rationalize the behavior and you take it on yourself, and that lowers your self-esteem, like just that in itself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's like, it's such acute insight you have, Eleni, that like weaponizing your own ability to do self-reflection, because these guys are champions of projecting all their, their worst qualities onto you. Right. And then if you are capable of looking at it from his point of view, a little bit of empathy there and a little bit of self-reflection. Could I have said this or done this differently? Oh boy, we can be putty in this type of person's hands. And then bringing up this issue about how you fold the towels. I mean, the sort of micromanagement of these
Yes,
everyday activities, that's how they chip away at you too, right? Uh,
absolutely. I think that's how it starts. It starts with the micromanaging and the criticism. And I think if we're looking
yeah.
for red flags, if you're looking for red flags, if this person is safe or not, I think that's the first thing that they start doing.
Yeah, well, and maybe we can go back even further. The first thing is the grooming,
Oh,
with the
yeah.
love bombing and the charm and the here,
Yeah.
kitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dark
Your
side.
kitty. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, but then and then the checking in, right? Maybe texting you throughout the day.
Hmm.
Oh, thinking of you, missing you. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that you can get back to me soon. Just wondered what you're up to.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I mean, it does look a lot like love, eh? But over time, how come it took you so long to answer my text? Or where were you?
Mm-hmm.
What were you
Hmm.
doing? And is that checking in with you because they care, or is it checking in with you because they're suspicious? They wonder if you're up to something and they want to continue to control you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so hard because initially you're like, oh, I mean, this seems like love, I think
Yeah.
I was talking to some other ladies. We're in a group chat and we all post things about similar topics. And we started saying how Disney ruined us, you know?
Oh, I say that all the time.
Oh yeah.
But we have to be careful because we don't want Disney to sue us. You're
Oh
doing
my gosh. Oh,
now
sorry.
with look, let's watch Frozen. Everybody, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, Hans in the beginning. That is love bombing. Oh my
But
God.
then let's blame fairy tales, right?
Yeah,
For
fairy
the
tale.
damage.
Yeah. You meet Prince Charming and everything is great and it feels like a fairy tale. And I think I noticed like a lot of people saying that the beginning of the relationship felt like a fairy tale. I did. I did. I was like, this is what love is supposed to be, right? Like this is a fairy tale. It was perfect. It was amazing. And then you find out it's actually a nightmare.
You know what? You're taking the beginning of my book, right? The words right out of off the
Oh my
page there,
God.
Lenny. I mean, we so think alike. I just wrote a book called From Trauma to Triumph, and the whole like sort of the motif that runs through it is this a fairy tale bill of goods we've been sold that we're going to meet our Prince Charming, get swept off our feet, and run off and get married and live happily ever after. End of fairy tale. Beginning of story and beginning
Yeah.
of unmasking Prince Charming and showing that monster that lies underneath. Doc, there's a judge was heard to say, and I quote this saying, Snow White doesn't marry Godzilla.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, like spreading the blame on both sides. But Snow White marries Dr. Jekyll, and then
Mhm.
finds out that he's also Mr. Hyde. That's the problem. But I'm alarmed to hear that, like, we're representing the two ends of the spectrum, age wise here. And I think we've got some glimmer of hope with movies like Frozen or Wonder Woman, but
Mhm.
I think to hear you still be talking about the influence of fairy tales and the whole princess and finding your Prince Charming, we have a lot of work to do as a society throughout the world to empower little girls so they're not looking to be saved and rescued, because you are ripe for the picking for somebody that makes all these promises to you. I have ladies that have been, oh, you don't have to work, I'll take care of you.
Ugh,
And
yeah, I
uh,
get that so often also. I totally understand. Now I'm like, every woman should have her own money. You need your
yes,
own job. You need your own money.
yes, yes.
Something on the side, if you stay at home mom, something on the side so you have the funds to leave in the event. Even if you think they're the most trustworthy, wonderful man, have your own funds.
No kidding. Here, sister. My aunt used to tell me when I was like a teenager, just thinking about the dating world. She says, when you go out on a date, always have your mad money with you. And that's
Mhm.
if you get mad back in those days when they had taxis. Remember taxis? You could call a taxi and you didn't have to stay if you didn't feel comfortable.
That's
But I
smart.
think, yes, every woman should have her mad money. Like financial reasons are one of the main reasons why a woman stays in an abusive relationship, and one of the main reasons why she goes back. And statistically, if you look at the number of homeless women out there, over 50% of them are homeless as a result of domestic violence. So a lot of women do end up, and especially in the like middle to upper income areas we're talking about, if they're involved with a powerful, sophisticated abuser who has money and could go after them, or take everything away from them and get away with it, you have to really think carefully about exiting without losing everything, including your life savings.
Hmm. Yeah. And there that the post-separation abuse is
Oh,
part of it. And they'll make sure that you don't have any money left. Like that
oh
they'll drag
yeah.
on the legal proceedings
No
as
kidding.
much as they can.
Yeah, and
Um,
then the blame
yeah.
gets shared. Why can't you two get along? With a high conflict. We talked about that last night.
Yeah. And I'm
Oh,
like, we're trying to be amicable. They're not
fine.
signing the agreement. He said he
Yeah,
would, and then they go back on their word and they go back and forth and they drag it out, and then you keep paying your lawyers. Like I
yeah,
understand through that.
yeah. It's like when people say, "Why are you so defensive?" Well, it's because I'm being attacked.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So, are there any other reasons why you think it's hard to get out of this type of relationship?
Yes, I would say one, most people in these relationships don't realize they're being abused because it could be very subtle.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then they normalize it, right? And then you normalize it.
Yep.
And then that cognitive and the cognitive dissonance where you remember how they are or how they were, and you so believe that they're a good person and that they're just having a bad day or something like that. And so you try to fix yourself and try to fix the relationship. And you think if you keep working hard enough, it'll go back to how it was. So I think that's another thing that I know I
Yes,
experienced.
yes. And I found that the smarter a woman is, the more empathy and compassion and ability to do self-reflection she has, the more, we talked about this before, the more agreeable she is,
Hmm.
accommodating, and the more perseverance she has, and the more of a problem solver, fixer, healer, nurturer she is, the longer she'll tend to stay in a relationship like this, thinking that there's something that she can do to make it work. But then there's also this other side to it. I think when women are so successful and powerful in other areas of their life, they're
Yeah.
used, you give them a problem, they'll solve it. Here's
Yeah.
a relationship problem. And if they end up going to counseling, oh,
Yeah.
it's a communication issue, but
Oh
it's
my
not.
God. Yeah.
And I know people that are in the process of getting their therapy counseling license now,
But,
and they're still not learning about covert abuse and coercive control.
yep.
And that's one of my goals, is to make it mandatory for anybody that's dealing with covert abuse survivors to have training in covert abuse and coercive control. And that includes physicians,
Hmm.
therapists, law enforcement, court staff, judges, like teachers,
Yeah.
everybody across the
Yeah.
board. So they're not just looking for, the obvious signs.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's scary. We also have not lack of education, but there's a lack of understanding about the relationship dynamics in even in some like therapy when you go in for couples counseling, for example. Um, some couples counselors are really great at working with healthy relationships, but
Yeah.
maybe bad at spotting abuse dynamics. And so what they'll do is try and push communication, but communication does not work with an abuser because the issue is not communication. The issue is that they want to control and dominate you.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And that's the problem. If all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Hmm.
And that's the thing. And if you're lucky enough to find a trauma-informed therapist, and there are trauma-informed therapists, coercive control informed therapists out there, boy,
Hmm.
what, that's absolutely golden, because then they can recognize what's going on and help you figure out how to protect yourself, not how to
Yeah.
communicate more effectively. Because with a covert abuser, anything in the hands of a covert abuser can become a weapon, even
Hmm.
words, right? So that's why communication doesn't work, because your
Yeah.
words will be used against you and you'll end up
Yep.
apologizing for something he did.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that
And you,
whole cognitive dissonance thing you're talking about, that's the crazy making piece, eh?
yeah.
A equals not A,
Mm.
tilt.
Yeah, and we're trying to be like, is this person a good person or a bad person, or just a good person that treats me bad sometimes? And we're like, it's instead of this is a bad person that had bad intentions and wants to control you in a relationship, and that they were pretending to be a kind person that has your best interest in mind.
This was the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Hmm.
Fairy tales do have a lot of truth. I just wish they wouldn't make women the bad guys so often, the evil stepmother and the wicked witch,
I
right?
know, right?
But they do have these lessons like the Pied Piper of
Mm-hmm.
Hamelin. If you're thinking about like pedophilia, I don't want to say it right out. There's a look what happened to those little kids being lured away from their village by this guy with a pipe,
Hmm.
or Hansel and Gretel with the wicked witch, come on
Hmm.
to my little house, my cottage, kitties,
Yeah.
cookies, where the, snow, the apple with the wicked witch and Snow White, like, we, on some level, they're teaching us to, not to judge a book by its cover. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem is with these abusers though, the the cover of the book looks great.
Looks fabulous,
It looks,
fabulous, darling.
wow, look at this art. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
open the book and
Ooh,
it's a horror story.
no kidding. Yeah, yeah. One of my slides for one of my talks is like about judging a book by its cover. And you've got like War and Peace on the front cover, and you open it up, and it's just one of those hollow books with a gun inside. So
Hmm.
that's but they're so good at camouflaging themselves to masquerade as regular people. But
Yeah.
I do think that where the soul should be, something is missing. And
Yeah.
uh, and I think there's danger in spending too much time thinking about how they got that way, because it kind of keeps
Hmm.
rooted in the past, right? And maybe they can be
Yes.
built.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about that? Because
Yes.
I spoke with I've been speaking with some people this past week about they call them people who do harm. I call them abusers. I don't mince
Oh,
words.
that so makes
I
me
don't
want to
mince
put
words. I
my
don't.
hair out. So,
Oh, me too.
so why don't we say people who survive? Why do we say survivors? Uh,
Yeah.
because not all of them survive, in fact. And
Yes.
if we like, if somebody murders somebody, do we say this person who murdered or this person who
It's
killed or this
yeah,
person who?
it's weird wordsmith language. I call a spade a spade. I call evil evil. Like I, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
me too. That's why we
yeah,
connect.
like look,
Yeah.
I do. People are like, oh, people are have, good and bad in them. And the problem is with these type of abusers is that's what keeps you stuck. And you don't realize the severity that there are people that just do not have redeeming qualities, you know?
Oh my gosh, so 100% right on. Have you seen the movie Nefarious? Nefarious?
I think you mentioned it, but I still haven't seen it. I'm
Oh,
so
shoot,
sorry.
yeah, about that inmate who's on death row and he's about to be executed, and this psychiatrist or psychologist comes in to
Hmm.
see whether or not he should get a stay of execution for mental health reasons. Does he have
Yeah.
multiple personality disorder? Is that why he killed so many people?
Yeah.
Or was he of sound mind
Yeah.
when he committed these acts? Or and you see it 5 minutes into the movie, was he possessed by a demon? And I know it's not cool to be talking about evil in our day and age when we've got psychology. And I don't want to keep bashing psychology because there's many wonderful therapists out there. But if we think about how long the profession of psychology has been around, like what, 100, 150 years, how long has evil been around? Just, like ask Eve in the Garden of Evil, Garden of Evil. Oh, there's a Freudian slip. Garden of Eden even had the snake there. So there are these people who walk amongst us and they lie easily. They lie often, even when they don't need to. They lack empathy, remorse, self-reflection. They enjoy causing pain and suffering
Yeah.
to be
It's the
protected.
enjoyment too. I think a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, I experienced the enjoyment. I was breaking down and he's like grinned at me. And I'm like, it's the, it's
Oh,
it
chilling.
chilling, truly chilling. And then that's when you're like, okay. So there's someone that has a difficulty regulating their anger. That I understand. I totally get that. The Schadenfreude and it being in enjoying another person's pain because it makes you feel more powerful than them and you enjoy breaking them down. And that's when I label it as evil.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's an important distinction. It's like we're not just talking about people that just have, maybe they have issues with regulating their emotions and things like that. We're talking about people that enjoy breaking down other people.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So right on. And the problem is many of these guys get ordered to anger management when it's not an anger issue. It's a
Yes.
control issue.
It's
Uh,
not an
uh,
anger issue.
yeah. Yeah. And this sense of, like there was a woman whose, husband wanted her to make dinner for himself and the secretary a business dinner, and she makes the dinner and he brings the secretary home, only to later find out that he's been having an affair with her. And so you get this, it's called duping delight, or
Yes.
when a guy sets his partner up to get arrested, and then as she's driving off in the car, she
Yeah,
sees
the
that
smile.
the
Yeah.
smile, the smile.
Mhm.
There's a smile that can be a dead giveaway. Uh,
Mhm.
that little
Little
mm,
smirk. Yeah, it's like the
smirk.
one. It's like the only on one side, and it could be so
Yeah,
subtle, but it's brief enough where you're like, oh, that's
gotcha.
yep.
Yeah, yeah,
hmm
yeah. Oh boy, boy. Um, so did you ever find, or do you find in the ladies that are talking to you that there is some kind of anger that flows through them, and it comes out in different ways, but it seems to be simmering.
Yeah, I do. I think we talked about the two abusers, right? We have the Cobra and we have the oh my
Pit bull,
gosh, the
the pit
the
bull.
bulldog and the Cobra,
Yeah.
and they could be both. We have that cold, silent seething where it's almost unnervingly cold.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yes.
and then we have the bulldogs, which is the raging, the verbal, like they yell and they spit, and like those bulldogs. And so that's the two types of anger, and one is like a simmering anger, and it's like very cold and calculative, and the other one is explosive, and you can always kind of feel it under the surface.
Yes, yes, and it's almost oh, I don't want to be, dissecting them too much, but this notion that they've been somehow ripped off by life,
Mhm.
that sort of a resentment about
Mhm.
whatever happened. Maybe, they have mommy issues or something happened, abandonment, horrible, maybe they were sexually abused as a child, maybe, something horrible happened and they felt at some moment, I feel powerless now. I'm never going to feel this way again. And I got to, take what's mine before somebody else gets it. Or they were treated like God's gift to, creation.
Yeah,
And
coddling does that too.
yeah,
Absolutely. We
yeah,
we always think, oh, the abuser must have trauma.
yeah,
They could have trauma. They could also have just been incredibly overindulged. And you
yes.
get the character like like I don't know, can I say this, like Joffrey from Game of Thrones, where it's just like the spoiled
Ah,
brat that grows up to harm others because they're just entitled spoiled brats. And that's another way in someone
yeah.
abusive also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And boy, I think our conversation is so important for women who are out there, and some men too, that may be in like a gay relationship and wondering, is my partner like that? Or women
hmm
involved with other women that are like that, because women can have this kind of controlling nature too, and be very punitive and
hmm
vengeful. And do horrible things all the while looking bright and shiny. So, but there's such a lack of education for young women still growing up to recognize these early warning signs of controlling behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no time in places like Silicon Valley. It's all about STEM and grades and your GPA. And then you get kids that are like, feeling suicidal because they didn't get their number one choice to go to Stanford or some Ivy League school. Like, it's like, I think the covert abuser often equates human worth with net worth. And
Mm.
if he's a parent, it trickles down so
Yeah,
that they
that's a good
equate
point.
their children's worth with their GPA. And
Yeah, and their accomplishments and yeah.
yes, yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, I think kids are, I don't think anybody's born this way. Well, most people aren't, and maybe there's the bad seed occasionally, but people can have their emotional growth not just stunted, but really twisted in dark ways. But then it's about protecting yourself, right?
Hmm.
Running, don't look back. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Did you think at a certain time, or have you talked to ladies about planning their escape, or was there a moment, an epiphany of, oh, that's abuse, and now I realize who and what you are, or was
Uh,
it slow building up to come to that gradual dawning awareness?
so usually what happens, at least when I speak to them, because I have my platform, they're already Googling. So the first step, if, hey, is my relationship toxic or abusive, is Googling your partner's behavior. If you need to do that, so that's the first red flag. And then they find my videos and they resonate with the videos and they're like, oh no, this is a tactic that I think I've experienced. I might need to talk to somebody, or I think this might be an abusive relationship. And so they already are starting to put the pieces together. And then they tell me their story and I highlight, oh, yes, it's not in your head. Yes, that was gaslighting, that kind of stuff. And then working into, okay, accepting and seeing this person for who they are.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's where denial can be a protective mechanism for
Yes.
many women, and especially if you end up having kids and giving up your job and becoming financially dependent on your partner. How can you deal with the horror of who and what he is, and get food on the table and the kids off to school, and think about, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
What do I do if I realize that this is not the man I thought he was? What a scary prospect that is. Like, the deeper you get into this type of relationship, that's again why recognizing these early warning signs, that's so important before
Yeah.
the stakes get so high and you've got so much to lose, so much at risk, and so
Yeah.
much damage that can be
Yeah.
done. So many of my ladies, their children are being turned against them by their husbands, by their spouses, that see that as a way to take a vengeance and avoid paying child support and look good in the
Mhm.
eyes of the judge, even if they've been
Mhm.
neglectful or abusive before. Suddenly
Mhm.
they can't bear to be without their kids, and
Mhm.
dad's is the place where they get to pet a puppy that he just got, or Disneyland.
Yeah.
But it's so awful to take what means the most to a woman and start to twist that or turn that away from her.
So I almost want to give people, whenever I hear those stories, reassurance, because we grow up and we can tell we're smart. Kids are smart. We can eventually tell the parent who genuinely cares for you and your well-being versus one that just is giving you gifts and coddling you and stuff like that. Because those other parents aren't going to be the ones that show up to your graduation, going to be there for your first heartbreak, going to be there to, like, be the shoulder that you cry on. Like, they can fake a lot of things, but they can't fake empathy and care. So we do eventually figure it out. Just in
That's so
case if
beautiful.
anyone
That is
is.
so, I just love the fact that you said that. Like, there's three different paths you can go down, right? When you grow up in a family where there's abuse, when you grow up in a family where one or the other, or sometimes both, uh, parents are a problem, then the risk is, because abuse is a learned behavior that you learn at the master's knee or the mistress's knee, how to
Mhm.
be in a relationship, right? And for when you grow up and you have a model of what empathy can look like and self-reflection and all that, you
Yeah.
you have that choice. So the risk is you can end up growing up to get involved with somebody like this, becoming
Mhm.
somebody like this, or the third road that I chose, that you chose, to go your own way and decide,
Mhm.
I suffered pain growing up and I don't ever want to inflict that on anybody else. So I'm going to have more
Yes.
care and love in my relationships.
Yes, absolutely. I think I've noticed a lot of people become it's almost like empathy to our own detriment, like hyper
Yes.
empathy.
Yes,
Um,
that's what makes us vulnerable to predators,
yes, it's true.
our
Yeah,
hyper empathy.
I agree. But because we've been hurt in the past and we know how hurtful it is to be in these relationships, that we don't want anybody else going through it. If I could like if I could have everyone learn about these type of relationships and have it as required reading for everyone, man or woman, everybody, I
Yes.
would be like, here, please save yourself. Please,
Yes.
please, 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 please.
Yes. Yes. And it has to be just as important as learning algebra or
Hmm.
calculus, because these are like survival skills. I mean, you can, go through life pretty much unscathed, if you don't know calculus, but you can't go through life unscathed if you don't know about covert abuse and coercive control. If 1 in 3 women on the planet will suffer severe assault at the hands of an intimate partner or at the hands of somebody that she's close to or knows during her lifetime, 1 in 3 women on the planet,
Yeah,
that's not even getting at the more subtle forms of abuse we're talking
that's a
about.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So oh gosh, I'm so happy that you're doing your channel and getting such great engagement to get the word out. Like, be safe. Know that these are shark infested waters. Some parts of the waters are safe,
I
but
know,
no.
and I feel so bad. Like I'm not. I said in one video, I'm like, I'm not here to scare you, and I'm so sorry because all the comments were like, oh my
Just a
gosh, I'm
little
so
bit.
scared. I'm not here to scared. I'm scare you. I'm just here to inform. Just keep the keep your radar open, even if you feel like you're safe.
Well,
And
yeah, let's go back to fairy tales. Do you
yeah,
really want to be Little Red Riding Hood taking the
yeah,
basket of cookies, over to grandma's house? Because you will run into a wolf. And are
hmm,
you going to know if it's a wolf or if it's grandma, you know?
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
And that doesn't mean there aren't good people out there still, good men, good
Hmm.
women, right?
Hmm.
So just how do you tell the difference? Lots of people don't know yet how to tell the difference because of the things you were talking about earlier. Check, check, check.
Yeah, we check the boxes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we have to open the lid and look inside that box.
Hmm.
What's going on?
Yes. And then some of us with people-pleasing tendencies are afraid of doing that.
Yes, yes, yes. And like for me growing up, I grew up with the notion that anger could kill you.
Mm,
Was an unsafe house that I grew up in. And so I
yeah,
have this sort of fear of making anybody angry. But now
yeah.
one of my mottos is if you're not pissing some people off, you're not really living your life.
That's great. I love that. No, I love that. No, it helps because we're so afraid of like making other people angry or making other people like upset with us or being the bad guy or being, whatever, coming off as, especially women, coming off as a bitch,
Yes,
too
yes,
aggressive. We're too
yeah.
aggressive. We're too hysterical. We're too this or that. And I'm like, no, this is how you keep yourself unsafe. This is how you get into these relationships because if I had if I had pushed back earlier and if I had been less accommodating and less people pleasing, I think it scares these type of people away because they don't want somebody they don't think they can control.
That's so true. That's so true. And then that the one of the pieces is being able to set those clear boundaries. The other
Mhm.
piece is identifying what your boundaries are. And
Yeah.
the other piece is recognizing when they're being tested, probed, and eventually
Yeah.
violated. All of those are 3 really crucial pieces to keep you
Mhm.
safe. Because there's lots of women that I worked with over the years who grew up in very healthy homes with
Mhm.
parents that treated each other and the kids with love and respect, and they still end up in this type of relationship because of the checking the boxes
Yeah. Yeah.
and that gradual erosion of their freedom and sense of peace
Yeah.
and
It
safety.
doesn't
So
start off like abuse. People are like, "Oh, I would never be in these relationships." It doesn't start off as it's like the frog boiling in hot water,
yep,
right?
yep, yep.
The water is great. It's lukewarm. In fact, you're like, "This is a jacuzzi. This is amazing. This is a spa." And then
Yeah.
and then it's the you're like, "Oh, this is a little bit warmer. Oh, a little bit. Now it's getting a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe a little bit more uncomfortable. Maybe there's something wrong with that I'm doing in this water." And then it gets to a point where you're like, oh, you have to leap out of it because it's like but
Yeah,
that's
you're gonna be
just too
served for
difficult.
dinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the images in my book. In fact, another, we just really, there's, I guess there are these sort of archetypes that, in the world, and these images that resonate because, I think, well, this type of relationship has been around ever since men and women have been around, and it would be fascinating, I think, to read a history of other people's wives,
You know,
history. Mm.
what's interesting? Albert Einstein's wife.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
controlling.
Yeah.
Absolute
I
control
saw the
freak.
letters. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
this is a coercive controller,
Oh, no
100%.
kidding. No kidding. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
cut that idol image of I see.
Mm,
Yeah, poor wife. Yeah, yeah. So I think it'd be great to go through history and look at these people and see like uh who was this person capable of empathy, and who was this person that was just, it was all about the facade.
yeah.
How about when you came out of your relationship, or the women that you've talked with, have they talked about damage that was done to them in the course of this relationship, to their heart, their mind, their soul, their self-confidence, their finances, any part of their lives or their heart that was hurt as a result?
Usually it's all the above. It's usually all of the above. Um it's finances, restraining orders, legal things, court orders. There's so trying to get lawyers, and that's expensive if you can't afford that, and all of these things. So financially, absolutely. Um, Police officers that don't believe them or don't are dismissive. So they're just dismissed at every turn. It's really sad. And then also, yeah, their self-esteem erodes because, like I said, they usually pick people that are highly empathetic, and will take on blame versus they project the blame. Everything is your fault versus we are like, okay, everything's our
Yeah,
fault.
she minimizes the abuse, and so does he. Perfect
Exactly. Perfect
combination.
match. Oh my God. Yeah. So then your self-esteem erodes. And then CPTSD, PTSD symptoms,
Mhm.
and uncomfortable anger after too, because these, we're not used to feeling anger. I know I wasn't
Me
an angry
neither.
person either, but I felt so much bitterness and anger because your boundaries are being constantly violated. So you're gonna feel a natural response to your boundaries being violated and you being treated poorly is anger, even if it's an uncomfortable feeling for you. And grappling with that, and there's so much that we need to heal afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's when therapists can really help to help with the healing process, to get
Hmm.
back in there and do that surgery to start to staunch the blood flow, the
Yeah.
hemorrhaging inside of all the
Yeah.
internal wounds that the regular person, including police officers, can't recognize. And that's another area where I think that really requires more education. When police show up at a scene to identify the dominant aggressor, it's like, so a woman is saying that she wants to break up with her partner. She's tired of the abuse. He attacks her. She defends herself. He gets scratched. She goes to
Exactly.
jail. Yeah,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
then she gets maybe another woman. There's been these veiled death threats, and I want to talk about veiled death threats too, like the way they can communicate or telegraph what their plans are. But uh, she is ending the relationship. She's in fear of her life. She gets a restraining order. She enters in California. They have something called the Safe at Home program that can help keep your address out of the public records. So she's feeling pretty good. She's moved into this like apartment complex. And oh, I forgot to say, like earlier in the relationship, she asked her partner, "Why don't you ever get me flowers? Like even on, Valentine's Day." And he says he hates flowers, and he says, "I'll get you flowers when you're dead." The
Wow.
flowers are for funerals. Okay, so she leaves. She gets a restraining order. Doesn't leave. She escapes, right? Because you don't leave that's this type of a relationship. You escape. She sets herself up in this new place. Gets to know her next door neighbor, very friendly, and starting to feel like there's a chance at life again. And then she opens the door one morning and she finds a basket
Flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
Yeah.
And her next door neighbor happens to be, opening the door at the same time, says, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" He wants to make up
Yeah.
and doesn't understand why she's gone pale and she's shaking. And the police
Yeah.
don't understand that either. She'll go to the police and say, "You violated the
Yeah.
restraining order. He
Yeah.
got you flowers."
Yeah, so here's the thing. I love hearing this and putting a name to it. So for the longest time we say, oh, they're just threats. But there is a specific type of abuse, right? This is Dr. Claire Murphy calls this symbolic aggression, where it's
Oh,
symbolic aggression.
love that. I love
It's
that.
something that you know is a threat. It's symbolic to you, and it's meant to intimidate and terrify you.
Truth bumps. Wow, 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 wow. That is fantastic.
Mhm.
Symbolic aggression. And that's the thing, putting language on this. I was an
Yes,
English
it
major.
validates it
An
because it's
English,
real.
yes, yes, yes. But language is key here. And especially
Hmm.
when we're dealing with this type of covert abuse, because it's about context, nuance,
Hmm.
reading between the lines and then connecting the dots. But yeah, yeah, digging beneath the surface to see what the true hidden meaning is. And these guys are all about that hidden meaning.
Yeah.
And police and courts are like they're looking at, blood, broken bones, bruises in your face, death
Yeah.
threats, not flowers at your door. I
Yeah.
love that though, symbolic aggression. That's beautiful and right on. And that's another thing that makes it so hard for women to recognize what they're dealing with because they don't have language to put on it. They know inside, they feel like they're dying inside,
Yes. Yeah.
but without terms like what you just shared with us and things like, gaslighting and love bombing and hoovering and all these
Hmm.
other tactics, once you can put a name on it, you don't have to take it so personally anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we invalidate ourselves. We
Yeah.
self-gaslight ourselves.
That's it. And that's the
Hmm.
goal, right? Is they turn you into the ultimate weapon to use against yourself so they don't have to do anything. Like the
Yeah.
the father who keeps telling his son how stupid he is when he's, trying to do his math homework and he says, "How can you be so damn stupid? I can't, you're just absolutely useless." And then later in the day, mom finds him banging his head against the wall saying, "How can I be
Mhm.
so damn stupid?" So
Yeah.
this is that like the horror that they do and that delight they take in weaponizing a person against themselves. So they end
Mhm.
up doubting their worth, their value, their sanity.
Weaponizing a person against themselves. Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what
Yeah.
makes it so covert because a lot of it is calculative and you uh, react to their abusive behavior by abusing yourself also.
Oh, yes. Or by doing things, like let's say you're going to a public social event, doing things that make you look like you're the problem.
Yep.
So you're getting ready for this special, I don't know, like every summer, yeah, you do a little photo
Hmm.
shoot to show everybody how the family is growing, and you
Hmm.
and you hire this, photographer to do the photo shoot, but and he starts to strike up a relationship with a photographer and they're all buddy buddy. And then just before they go to the photo shoot, he starts talking to her about how useless and ridiculous she is and how she's doing everything wrong. And like there's this sort of quiet, the monotone with really get
Hmm.
and or not helping her at all get the kids ready. And so by the time she gets to the photo shoot, she's frazzled,
Frazzled.
she's angry, she's like got this grumpy look on her face, and
Mhm.
all to sort of justify what he says later about her, that yeah, you see what I got to put up with.
Yeah. And, another term for that, dog whistling. So
Obviously.
that's when they get you to a point behind closed doors. They might say something like, for example, like, you know, they constantly tell you that you don't do anything right, you don't clean properly, you don't do anything right around the house, and they go to somebody else's house and they're like, "Wow, look how clean this place is. This is so you're a wonderful host." And you're like, "Oh, wait, hold on." You know what I mean? And then you get frazzled and you get more upset and they're like, "Well, she's acting erratic." That's it's those little covert things. It's like they get you all riled up behind closed doors and they'll do something in public that might seem innocent to everybody else, but you're having a reaction because of all of the history with this person.
That's right. That's why context and history are so important. And that's another problem when you're calling the police for something that's happening in the moment where you're feeling unsafe. They don't care about, like, there's women talk about, when I ask them about a history of any physical violence, and they say, and they brush it off. They go, well, he took a knife to my tires when I was trying to leave, but that was like 6 years ago. And or yes, he grabbed me, and he put bruises on me, and that was really scary, but that just happened once. Or he put his hands on my throat, but that just happened once, and that was like 8 years ago. It matters because it
Mm-hmm.
only, like, that kind of physical aggression only ever has to happen once for it always to be hanging in the
Yeah.
air, the possibility ever after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And yet,
It's
yet
it's an escalation if they think they keep pushing boundaries, you know?
yeah, so boundaries, like, how do we figure out what our boundaries are, what our values are, like, and how do we start to recognize when they're being tested? Like, did you
Yeah.
did you start was there any particular thing that in your relationship, or any of the ladies that you talked about, that you started to go, oh, my boundary is being tested or probed or violated at this moment?
Okay. I always I've had a hard time identifying boundaries all of my life. Um,
Yeah.
all my
I think a
life.
lot of women do, right? Because we
Yeah.
grew up ladies, and we want to be
Yeah.
accommodating.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think really we have to learn to honor our intuition.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yes.
that is so difficult to do because we're constantly being self-gaslit in society, but just we self-gaslight, we minimize our experience and how bad it is. And I say, okay, how do you feel? And it's not before you have the terminology, the language, like describing how you feel. So mine was like, I felt small. He made me feel like a child. Okay, well, then we unpack that. Okay, why is that? And then going into that feeling and the instances where they made you feel smaller. Smaller is means another person is trying to dominate you. Like that is why you feel small without understanding, oh, that other person is doing that. But that's why they're talking down to you. It's condescending behavior, that kind of stuff,
They're
and
also
controlling you.
sucking the life force out of you.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah.
dangerous.
Oh yeah. But just like the making you feel minimized and small. And if you hear that, you're like, okay. So then you unpack those boundaries. If that's what you're feeling, okay, let's unpack that. Um, and then the other one is like, I have so much anxiety around my partner. Okay, so what's anxiety? And that's what we know as walking on eggshells, but the other person might not have the language for that yet. So
Mhm.
it's like, what instances made you feel like there was anxiety when your partner was around? Oh, well, you're afraid of doing so and so because it's gonna something and it's gonna trigger them to react in an angry way. So I think, and then you unpack those instances, and you're like, that's the time that my boundary was violated there, boundary was violated there. So honoring those feelings and that intuition, I think, is so important because then we can unpack where our boundaries have been crossed.
I think that's beautiful. So well said, Eleni. And I think in the course of this type of relationship, we lose touch with our gut instinct, with
Yes.
our women's intuition. And it's about his voice drowning out ours. And
Yeah.
over time, that's what gets weaponized against us. So we make a mistake and we start, oh, you stupid idiot, to ourselves, and
Yeah.
not realizing that that's his voice, not ours.
Yeah.
Um, and then boundaries. I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking that
Oh
you've
my
got to
gosh. Oh my God.
skedaddle.
Yeah. I'm so
Ne-
sorry.
ne- Next time, let's talk about boundaries more and healing from all this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. I have
Okay,
to go.
sure.
I'm so sorry. It was so nice talking to you, Ruth.
Mwah, love to talk to you.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.